So I knew that you mentioned, this whole goal is to keep people to the end of the webinar. Why is that so important? Why do you got to keep people to the end of the webinar?
Yeah, if they don't see the offer, they can't buy it.
That's why. Oh, so you're not soliciting the offer till the end, the absolute end.
Usually, right? There are rare exceptions to that. And it's important really quickly to understand why. Like, if you look at like the best comedians, they have a setup and then they have a punchline. And the setup is a lot longer than the punchline. And they can't just come out with the punchline, right? And so for you to have your punchline, your biggest, most powerful insight, there needs to be a lot of setup involved, usually. And so we need to spend the time in order for people to properly evaluate the offer before we show them what the offer is. And then that's why we need them to stay till the end to see the offer. Now, a webinar is just the midpoint of a campaign. There's what happens before the webinar, what happens after the webinar. Mm-hmm. So there are ways on the follow-up we can get them to see the offer too, and so on and so forth. But the other thing too, and this is just sunk costs fallacy, is people will value that in which they spend their time with. So the more time you spend with something, the more you tend to value it, regardless of whether that's true or not. And so if I can get you to spend more time with me, you're more likely to buy from me. Now, I don't like to do that manipulatively. I think you don't want to trick your people into buying from you. It's just a poor customer you get at the end of the day. But if you have something of value, and one of the ways people can evaluate that value is they say, I don't know, I choose to spend my time with you as opposed to somewhere else. It totally helps to frame into light what your value really is. It's just another way of doing that. So we got to hook them in. The other thing too is there's active listening and then there's passive listening. And so in school, we mostly passive listen. We were in the room. We were present. We got our attendance taking, right? But everything went in one ear and out the other. But if we give people targets to look for and try to find, then their mind starts to be active and they start to interact with what you're teaching, not just passively have it wash over them, which is really important for comprehension and then therefore through persuasion.
How long should our webinars be?
Great question. My average webinar is about 4 hours. Now, out of context, that sounds insane. So let me contextualize it, right? The slides that I have for my webinar prepared for it will take me usually between 75 to 90 minutes, depending on the price point, depending on how sophisticated the offer is to unpack, depending on the audience, et cetera, et cetera. But a good rule of thumb is the formal portion of the presentation should end between 60 and 90 minutes. So then where is the rest of the time coming from? The rest of the time is coming from, because most of my webinars are live. I wish I could automate them, but it makes too much money doing it live to automate it.
Yeah, you got to do it live. I agree.
God, it's just like nobody
wants to watch something like pre-recorded right now. People want the interaction.
It's soulless when it's pre-recorded. And I get it. And there are times when it makes sense to do it pre-recorded. But every time I broke out the calculator and did the math, I'm like, I save more time overall and make more money when I do it live. And it's more fulfilling too. So we do most of ours live and we have an audience. And so to me, the real webinar starts after all, everything's on the cards are on the table, everything's laid out. And now it's just me and an audience. And I'm trying to figure out, is there anything I can say to get them to buy? And if so, what needs to be said in order for this person to buy, which may be different from that person, which may be different from that person, which may be different from that person. And what's beautiful about this is why you're selling to this person over here, everybody else is getting another reason to say yes. And so the cumulative effect of that is really effective too. But even more important than all of that is you really truly understand and learn what makes your audience tick. Below the surface, below the surface, below the surface. Because there's one thing I know to be true in this business. Most customers are afraid to be vulnerable. Because if they're vulnerable, it puts them in a state where they can be harmed. And unfortunately, most customers have been harmed before when they've put their trust in gurus or into solution providers and they were taken advantage of. And so they're not going to really tell you what you need to hear in order to decide whether it makes sense for them to be your customer or not until you've really earned their trust. And that usually is about 3 hours in. That's when you really find out what's at stake and why people are or aren't buying. And not only is that beautiful from a point of sale, and you get some of the greatest customers you could ever get on a micro level, But then on a macro level, you start to infuse in the DNA of all your marketing, what you're channeling and what you've been empathic towards from these interaction with these beautiful customers, these wonderful souls that are on your webinars that haven't bought yet, but are still hanging in there. So there's something they need to hear they haven't heard before in order for them to say yes to the offer you're making. And that's why most of our webinars end up landing 4 hours. Now, I'll shut it down quicker if there's no energy or electricity going on.
So it's basically like 90 minutes of content, and then what? You're going through Q&A, or you're just handling objections?
Yeah, and I don't ever call it Q&A because then that presupposes that they're asking questions and I'm giving answers, right? We literally like, it's time to figure out if it makes sense for you to invest in this thing or not. So you're right. It's completely in dealing with objections, and really all those are our limiting beliefs. Are there limiting beliefs that are not needed anymore, that don't serve you and hold you back? And can we unlimit those beliefs? And that's where we really have a deep exploration.
And are you calling out if people are buying on the spot? Are you saying like, Sherry just bought a course? Are you calling out when people are buying or not really?
That kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it's worth doing now. I'm all about now the pain, right? Because I know if we can eliminate the pain, everybody will buy. And if we can eliminate the risk that goes along with that pain, then every single person on that webinar is going to buy. Some of these other things are useful and effective, and occasionally my business partner will, because he's like doing traffic control. I'm not directly reading the chat anymore. He's picking and he's feeding it to me, and he's clumping it and he's lumping it together, and we're communicating to whole swaths of different people on the webinar, but occasionally also individually. Here's a great insight for everybody listening, right? The more ways in which we can look at a problem, the better we can solve that problem. So sometimes we are doing micro, specifically, hey, John had this exact question. Sometimes we're doing macro, where a lot of you are questioning how long it will take for you to get started, and we're framing it from that perspective, right? Sometimes we're closing it, or I'm closing you because I'm telling her a story, but it's really pointed towards you, but it's an indirect way for you to take in information as opposed to me telling you directly, right? There's overt communication and there's covert communication. There's the times where you push on people and you challenge them, and then there's the times where you are just loving on them. And you run through all of them, ideally, throughout this whole process. And so we're doing all of that. We don't really do the social proof so much anymore because you can fake it, so customers tend to not believe it even if you say it. I like things that are easy to demonstrate. So we'll occasionally do that, but mostly what it's all about is the objection. And here's how it always plays out. First, it's money, which it never really is, but that's the first smoke screen that they throw up. I'd really like this, but it's too expensive. It's too much money. I don't have the money for this right now. 99 times that's a lie. So you learn that that's not truly the objection. But until you uproot that issue, you can't get past it. So we'll handle the price objection 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 times in 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 different ways. Now, we don't do it all at once, because if you drill down on something, it gets too boring. So we first address price. And then the second issue is always time, almost always time. I don't have the time to do this, or how long will it take? And so we'll handle that one 6, 7, 8, 9 different ways, right? And then the real one, almost always the real objection is neither time nor price. It's always belief. I don't think I can do this. I'm deficient in this way. I'm limited in that way. I'm going to fail. And that's where we really spend most of our time. But we cycle. We like do a price objection, then we do a time objection, and then we do 2 beliefs. And then we do another price objection, then we do another time one, and then we do 2 more beliefs, right? And then we can do that forever. I could go on forever doing that. I'll give you a great example of one. I just made up this new close 2 weeks ago, I think it was. Here's an issue that some consumers in some markets have. They will look at your offer, and then they will say, oh my God, look at everything that's here. There's a ton of stuff here. And they're initially excited, and then they're like, but wait, I got to consume it all. Oh my God, that's going to take a lot of effort. And they will feel very uncomfortable if they don't consume all of your information. Even though they can't. It's going to be too much, and it's not a good way of doing it, right? And so it frustrates me because it's a limiting belief. The limiting belief is I have to consume all the information in order to be successful with this thing. which is not how real success works. Real success works is we consume only partial amounts of information, and then we kind of go out there and figure it out, right? But they're thinking, I got to consume it all. And if I don't, then I suck. I'm not good. I failed. I didn't follow through. Or they do consume it all, God forbid, and now they're more confused than they were when they started. I love these customers. They're a walking meat shield full of contradictions, right? And so I have to help them navigate through that minefield in order for them not to cheat themselves out of something that they should buy. And so I will say to them, this is what I said the other day, and we freestyle these now on these closes sometimes. I'll say, tell me when you got a library card, you didn't feel guilty that you didn't read every book in the library. And that's one of the ways in which we deal with that objection specifically, if that's one that's coming up. I used to deal with it this way, and I still do sometimes. It's like, if you went to a buffet, do you feel obligated to eat every type of food that's offered to you in the buffet and drink every drink that's offered to you? And people were like, no, of course not, right? Well, that's what this course is like. It's done buffet style. And even if you only consume 10% of it at random, we put a blindfold on you, spun you around, and you played pin the tail on the donkey when it came to this content. I am confident you will be able to succeed and move forward with this. And then later on, if you want to go back and do it logically, you certainly can, right? So these are beliefs. And again, I have 2 or 3. I gave you 3 ways just to deal with that one stupid little tiny belief. But we cycle through all of these. And then there's product-specific objections too, right? Where it's, can I use it this way? Will I have access to it over here? I'm I'm international. Will it work for international folks, et cetera, et cetera? So we just hang in there and we just go through all of them.
I love that. And a key thing, young and profiters, is you have to know what people are going to object. You've got to actually think through that and prepare your answers in advance. So go through all the possible things that people could object from your offer and make sure that you know the answers and then creatively integrate it. So I love that. So a very important piece when it comes to webinars is to transform, not inform. I definitely made that mistake. I remember my first webinar was just like a fire hose of information. It did well, but I think I could have done better had I just sort of pulled it back and not scared people in terms of the information.
That's
so
right.
I'd love to hear your perspective. Young and profiters, you may not know this about me, but I'm obsessed with skincare. I spend all my money on skincare. I'm always testing new products. I love to look young. And let me tell you, I just added something to my routine that is leveling it up, and that is OneSkin. OneSkin is not just another skincare brand. It's a revolution in skin health. Instead of focusing on surface level appearances or short-term benefits, they go deeper. They use science of aging to extend skin health at the molecular level. OneSkin transformed the skincare industry when they identified OS01, a groundbreaking peptide that is significantly proven to reduce your skin's biological age, making it function and look younger. That's right, with OneSkin, you can actually reduce your biological age through topical treatment. Now we can look young and profiting no matter our age. But seriously, healthy skin is important for healthy bodies. Skin deterioration releases inflammatory signals to the rest of the body, influencing whole body health over time. And as the leading cause of age-related diseases, systematic inflammation poses a serious threat to our ability to lead long, healthy lives. By keeping your skin healthy and strong, OneSkin products help promote overall longevity. OneSkin is found and led by longevity scientists, not marketing experts, so for them, reducing wrinkles is just a bonus. Say goodbye to complicated skincare routines. OneSkin's all-in-one topical supplements provide targeted age-reversing treatments and daily moisturizers for your face and body in just one step. OneSkin has unisex packaging, vegan ingredients, it's fragrance-free, and made for both men and women. To learn more about the technology behind OneSkin, check out my interview released on June 16th with their co-founder and CEO, Carolina Heiss. Experience the power of longevity science and unlock the secrets to healthier skin with OneSkin. Go to youngandprofiting.co/OneSkin and use code PROFITING to get 15% off today. Again, that's youngandprofiting.co/ONESKIN OneSkin and use code PROFITING to get 15% off today. That's youngandprofiting.co/OneSkin.
Yeah, and you and me both, right? So it took me about 2 years to figure out that insight because we want to be of service. Like, we want to give people a lot of information, and we have a lot of information to give. But usually more information creates more conflict. It creates more overwhelm. So you're actually harming people, not helping them. And I learned this the hard way, right? This is why the more you tell somebody, the less they are likely to buy from you when it comes to education alone. Education is not enough. And you're quoting me here, which I really appreciate. What a student you are. So kudos to you. You are. I'm very impressed. Right.
Oh, thank you.
So transform, not inform. So seek to transform, not to merely inform. And so we are affected by two things: what we know and how we feel about what we know. To quote Jim Rohn, and 20% of it is what we know, and 80% of it is how we feel about what we know. So I have to have this space in my webinars to set it up. So when I give you the insight, you're in the best emotional state you can be to take it and feel the most confident to use it, or at least feel the least unconfident, right? Like, I want you to feel like even if you do everything wrong, you'll be okay if you follow this advice. And so the setup and the payoff takes more time than the actual information that you're giving, and you've got to have space for that. The other problem with doing this on a webinar is people need to know what the outcome is. They need to know the time of day, not how to build the watch. And so we need to step back and say, I really only need to teach one key insight. I got to have one thing that at the end of the day, when they hear it, they can't go back to the old way of being, right? No matter even if they want to, they will reach for that lesser state of who they used to be, and it will no longer be there for them. They have to be better after hearing what I say, right? And we've all had an experience of this, right? Like where there was something that happened or broke within us, and we said never again, right? Usually through pain or through challenge, we said, I will never operate that way again, and then you never did. Because whatever the pain is of doing something new is less than the pain of doing the same thing over and over again. So all of my webinars try to lead up to that key insight to where no matter what limiting belief or self-doubt that they have, they can no longer reach for it by the time our webinar is over with. And so that's the one main point. Now, I usually need about 3 or 4 things to supplement that. So 4 key elements. So I really have one insight I'm going to give, 4 elements that build it up to support it, and that's it. So if you look at my webinars, there's really only about 10 or 5 to 10, maybe 15 minutes at most these days of actual instruction, how to. That's it. And at first I used to feel very uncomfortable about that, because other people do it similarly. They teach you everything other than how to do it, right? They get you all dressed up, and then they leave you with no place to go, and then you have to buy the product in order to know where to go. Or they'll even be more conniving, and they'll teach you steps 1, 3, and 5, and then you got to buy steps 2 and 4. So useful but incomplete is the phrase that a seminar pitch person once told me, and it made me like get sick to my stomach. I'm like, there's got to be a better way where we can empower customers and then still sell them, not disempower them and then sell them, or empower them and then not sell them, right? Yeah. So I used to feel bad about that because I felt I was taking something away from my customers. But then what I realized was if I remove all the noise and the distraction, then and only then can my point land with the maximum amount of impact. And so when I teach how to on webinars, and it's only 5 to 10, it lands so much better and has so much more insight, because there's an endless supply of free YouTube videos out there, and people are watching more of them than ever before, yet people are still struggling as much as they ever had to be successful. And that's because more information isn't the answer. The right information prescribed in the right way is the answer. A doctor doesn't say, hey, if 1 pill is good, take 2. If 2 pills are really good, take 3. Hell, just take the whole bottle, right? The effective amount of dosage required to help the patient. And it's less as opposed to more. It's just the right amount. And then more important than the information, it's setting it up so they're in the most conducive state of receptivity to hear the message. Like, real quickly, the whole thing, if you tell somebody who's overweight to lose weight, you say, it's really simple. It's just calories in, calories out, right? And you will not help anybody with that approach and that attitude. You will fail, because the information is not the reason that they're struggling with their weight. It's not their misunderstanding of what a calorie is that prevents them, right? It's psychological. It's emotional. There's a whole complex set of issues involved that need to be unpacked and then need to be put together again in new ways that will make a transformational difference in that person's life. And so we need to spend more time on the psychology and on the emotion, and less time on the how-to and the information.
This is amazing. Like such a great explanation. So basically what you're saying, have one key insight, then have a step-by-step process to underpin that insight. And that's it. Like don't overwhelm them with too much information. Spend the rest of the time talking about their objections. So speaking of psychology and emotions, you talk about something called ecological checks.
Yeah.
How do we do them? What are they?
So I'll give you the simplest ecological check, right? I was working with a client once, and she had a fear of speaking in front of an audience, and I didn't know what caused it. Later on, I figured out, but I didn't need to know. And I was asking her. I said, "Okay, I'm going to be you. How do I know when to be afraid?" And she says, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, if I'm going to speak on stage publicly, when do I know to be scared?" And it was fascinating because she never looked at it. This is an ecological check. I'm checking in with the ecology of the situation to know how to operate just like she's operating. And I started, it's hard. You got to tease this out of clients if you're doing it one-on-one. I say, well, let me ask you this. Say we're having a dinner and there's 6 or 7 people there. If an 8th person shows up, does that turn a private dinner into a public speaking opportunity? Or is it 9, or is it 10, or is it 11, or is it 12? Again, how do I know when it's public speaking? And then therefore, how do I know that it's appropriate to be fearful here? And she told me an answer, and I'll never forget this. And she says, when I can no longer see everybody's face. And I thought, yeah, I would be scared out of my mind too. If I was speaking in front of 1,000 or 2,000 people and needed to check in with every single, that would overwhelm me. I couldn't do that. No wonder she's afraid, right? And she was using people's face as a way to determine whether what she was saying had value, et cetera, et cetera. So very quickly, we were able to associate other ways in which she could decide whether what she was saying was of value and whether she was safe or not, other than having to look everybody in their eyes. And then right after that, like a month or 2 later, she sends me this picture. She's on stage. Massive audience, right? And these are like all women in the audience. She's a woman speaking to other women, and women are the hardest people to speak to, especially if you're a woman, right? They are even more vicious to a public speaker in that circumstance, and she was just killing it and owning it. Now, later on, I discovered why she was afraid of public speaking.
What's up, young and profiters? Do you have a CRM platform? A CRM tool can help you accelerate business growth by keeping track of leads, improving customer retention, automating daily tasks, and enabling data sharing across your entire organization. If this sounds like what you need, say hello to Brevo, formerly Send in Blue, a platform that helps you build customer relationships across email, SMS, chat, and more. With Brevo, you can easily create customized emails, engaging SMS or WhatsApp campaigns, stunning landing pages, and automated workflows. No matter your goals, Brevo has the complete toolkit to turn one-time browsers into long-term customers. It's the perfect business growth tool for marketers, small business owners, and sales teams looking to build a consolidated marketing and CRM toolbox. I'm especially impressed with Brevo's sales platform. You can automate repetitive tasks from meeting reminders to follow-ups. I'm all about less admin work and more time closing deals. And with all the leads and deals in one place, you can keep a closer eye on your progress and streamline your pipeline. Brevo can also help streamline your sales and marketing efforts. With more transparency and all customer interactions during the buying journey stored in one central location, your team will have a better pulse on what's working and what can be improved. And at the same time, your customers will enjoy a consistent end-to-end experience that keeps them loyal to your brand. And best of all, Brevo's pricing structure is based on the number of emails sent and not the number of contacts stored. This is a game changer when it comes to this type of service. Get started with Brevo for free by going to brevo.com/profiting and use the promo code PROFITING to save 50% off your first 3 months of the starter and business plan. Again, that's brevo.com, brevo.com/profiting, and sign up for free.
She came over to the United States, didn't know how to speak the language when she was like 9 years old. Her parents just threw her in a public school, and the kids would chase her and beat her and throw rocks at her when she spoke because she didn't know the language, right? So, but I didn't need to know what caused it. All I needed to know is ecologically check in to determine what's stopping her, what the limit is. And so the number one way to do that is, how do you know when to blank, right? So a friend of mine had his son likes to chew on his fingers. And I asked him, I go, how do you know which finger to chew on first? Nobody had ever asked him that question before, right? Instantaneous rapport. Everybody else is telling this kid why he shouldn't chew on his fingers, or they're trying to give him advice on how he could not chew on his fingers anymore. And I'm showing true interest in his model of reality, of how he sees the world. Nobody ever has done that. Instantaneous rapport. But even better still, that's when we can learn things. Well, how do you know which one to chew on first? There's a whole process that you don't even realize you're running. That's an unconscious process. We bring consciousness to it. We can affect it. We can potentially change it. In fact, the logic that we worked out there was, well, if you let your fingernails grow out longer, you got more to chew on. So now we stop the impulse that I got to chew on them right away, right? We allow him to grow them out, and then he can decide now whether he wants to chew on them or not, or if it makes sense. But that's how you get into an ecological check. Customers all the time. So somebody says to me, this is a great close. They'll say, I need to think this over before I make a decision. And I ask them, well, how much do you need to think over? And they'll be like, what do you mean? I'll be like, is it 52%, 41%? Like, how will you know when you've thought it over enough to make a decision? And you will discover almost always that they have never thought it over. I need to think it over really is code for saying, I don't know what to do, and I'm scared because I don't know what to do, so I'm going to completely remove myself from the situation, shut down, and then I'm not going to, unfortunately, grow. So I got to help them stop themselves from doing a fight or flight response in that instance. So it's an ecology check of like, how do you know when you've thought it over? How do you know it's too expensive? I can't tell you how many times I told clients that. They say it's too much. How do you know it's too much? Like, compared to what? Like, what makes you so confident that you know that it's too much money? Is it the most expensive thing you've ever bought in your life? No, it's not, right? How do you know when you make a good purchasing decision? What is in common with the purchases that you've made where you've always looked back on them and say, damn, that was a good purchase decision? And then they'll tell you. And I was like, great, let's line it up. Does some or all of that also make sense for this purchase here today? So yeah, this is good stuff. I'm glad you're bringing this out.
So genius. So how do you do this from like a one-to-many perspective? So a lot of what you're talking about is one-on-one. How can you do this in a webinar when you're speaking to hundreds of people?
Yes. Great question, right? So we try to build out models, right? So if I know that to that market, there's going to be a huge pushback on money, right? Let's just say I'm targeting markets where we know economically, looking at the demographics, they have less disposable income than other markets. So I'll give you a great example of that. A specific, we were selling in Brazil. So translating, localizing a product into Portuguese. And I know economically, they don't have the same type of situation that we would do if we were selling in the US or other countries. So up front, I know that that's an issue. And so I will bring things up throughout the webinar and even in the introduction and such, talking about how evaluating decisions based upon superficialities may be significantly limiting towards you, right? If all you do is judge books by their covers, how many books are you going to miss out on? If you only judge things based upon the price tags associated with them, then you're going to be very limited, right? Do you buy only the cheapest shirts and only the cheapest shoes? Is that the only consideration that you make? And so we would spend time breaking down some of these things from a story basis or from an education basis. I might tell a story in that situation of the first time I ever made a major investment in my life. And this is a true story, right? I didn't have a credit card that I could charge the product that I purchased on. It was a $2,000 product and the bank only trusted me with a $500 credit limit. That's how poor I was, right? So what did I do? I asked my mentor at the time, the guy that I painted houses for, right? If he would use his credit card and then I would write him a check and I would pay him back that way. I didn't let my lack of financial resources limit my ability to invest in something that I knew was going to help me. And so that might be a story that I tell throughout the webinar so the masses can hear that and understand that, regulate that, get it excited, right? But I've always found it's better to be very blunt and direct with the limitations that I know my audience has and just flat out bring them up. I might even say in an introduction, say, if I think it makes sense to let them know that there's going to be an offer at the end, I might say something along the lines of, at the end of this, we're going to make an offer. And for some of you, the price shock is going to be too much for you. And then you're going to shut down and you're not going to hear anything else that I say beyond that. So for those of you, it makes me sad because you will not be able to see the value to determine if it makes sense or not. But for the rest of you, hopefully the price tag shock will wear off enough. And then we can determine if it makes sense for you regardless of what the price is. Because if you're the right person for this, it's going to be more expensive for you not to buy this. But before we get into all of that, first, let's yada, 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 right?
There's so many psychological things going on with that. There's price anchoring. There's making people have what they can have.
Open loops.
And also
yep.
feeling left out,
Yeah,
right?
oh,
People
yeah,
wanna
oh, yeah,
be like
yeah.
everybody
Yeah,
else.
we got to bring a gun to this knife fight here. I mean, and here's why. And this is really important to understand. It took me a while to feel really comfortable with this, right? Like the easiest thing anybody can do is nothing. And that's only useful to you in the very short term. Doing nothing repeatedly will churn you into nothing. It's disaster. But you're always fighting against the alternative that every consumer has, which is to do nothing, be nothing, say nothing, right? So never spending money, zero energy involved in not purchasing your product, zero accountability, zero responsibility, right? Only temporarily safe, but continuing to do nothing is the most unsafe behavior that they can do. So we're at war with the limiting factor that all of us are hardwired as human beings to have, which is to retreat and to do nothing and to shy away and only survive at the expense of our true happiness. And so we have to bring a gun to that knife fight, as I said earlier, right? We have to bring every single ethical tool that we can possibly muster to help the person that we know should buy the product. And they know they should buy the product to actually end up buying the product. And if you do all this right, you get like 1 out of 10. So the other 9 out of 10 who should buy your product still won't. And it still breaks my heart to this very day. But the 1 out of 10 who you otherwise might miss can make all the difference in the world. And I'll tell you one quick story here as we wrap. So I was at that mastermind, the Driven Mastermind, and a guy named Mattson came up to me. I hadn't seen Mattson in many years. But Mattson sat on a webinar I did in 2013. And he was in a position, and I think Mattson was already a grandfather at the time. And his dad, he had to go to his dad because he didn't have the finances in place to invest in the offer that I was making. So he went to his dad and his brother, and they all went in business together. And they spent as much money as they could. And that's a humbling experience to be, a grandfather and still going to your own father saying, "Dad, I need some money," right? Very humbling experience. But he did it anyway because it made sense to them. He saw it. He saw the opportunity and he wanted to make a go at it. And I didn't disqualify him. And so what had happened was Mattson ended up with his brother launching a line of products that are now distributed in Walmart. They're distributed in CVS. They're distributed in PetSmart and a whole variety of other places. And I just saw him. I hadn't saw him in years. I never knew what happened to the guy, but I just saw him a couple weeks back. And he had sold his business. And I got to imagine it was like a 9-figure exit probably, right? Completely changed this dude's whole life and trajectory because he sat on a webinar that I had and I refused to let him settle for what I knew was less than what he was capable of. And it just completely changed his life. And now he's in that audience and now I can use him as an example of what I'm teaching to everybody else. I mean, nothing succeeds like success, right? And so that's what I look at that's at stake. And I know for every Mattson that I get, I miss others that could have been Mattson because no matter what I can do, I'm swimming upstream against the general tendency is to retreat and to be lesser than you can be because it's safer in the short term, right? So hopefully these are motivational words to those of you listening right now. And by the way, your customers then don't care. If you have this, they don't care if you're young or if you're old, if you're black or if you're white or any other color, whether you're educated or uneducated, right? Who you were yesterday, right? What they care about is they see that you care about them and you also are showing that you won't give up on them and that you understand them. And there are more fortunes to be made with that than any other technique that I could teach you.
And I love what you're saying because it's so true. A lot of people think that sales is manipulation, but when you have a really good offer and you know that it works and you're getting feedback that it works, you don't feel bad to use these sales techniques because you know it's ultimately in the best interest of the customer. So Jason, I want to be respectful of your time. You did such a great job. I learned so much. I can't wait to dive into all your material. We end the show with 2 last questions for all of our guests. The first one is, what is one actionable thing our young and profiters can do today to become more profitable tomorrow?
Ooh, that's a good one, right? So Fail fast in ways that can't bring you harm. So success isn't 10,000 hours. Success is 10,000 failures. So our goal is to fail 10,000 ways where each time we fail, we move a step forward. So find somebody you can be of service of as quickly as possible, and then start serving them, and then learn from that and trade up.
I love that. And what is your secret to profiting in life? And this can be beyond just financial.
Yeah, that's a good one, right? So most of my life, for my first 35 years, I'm 40 years old, just turned 40 a couple weeks ago. The first 35 years of my life, I spent trying to prove my worth by being successful. The problem with that is it's a hole in a bucket. No amount of money that you put into that bucket will fill that hole. So the second half of my life here, as I turned 40, and the last 5 years is the start of that. So I got a jump start. So I'm a little ahead. Is how do I feel worthwhile regardless of any external successes that come my way? So as a human being, as a person, just being me, the best, most authentic me that I can be, that's the goal. I mean, whether I sell 100 million or $1 billion, or whether I never sell another dollar again, how can I be totally okay with who I am as a spirit, not just as a materialist, or not just as somebody whose worth is tied up on some externalities that you can't ultimately control? And so I suggest the rest of you as well consider some of that, right? No amount of this, what we talked about today, will heal that, right? So I would rather you be happy and whole and authentic and do okay in business than to be the best in business but still feel hollow and empty inside. Now, it's a balancing act, right? It's not one or the other. It's usually a combination of the two. But all of one and none of the other is a very dangerous path. And I know because I walked down that path, and I'm so fortunate that I know better these days because I can take the tools that I learned from that path and invest them on this new journey that I'm on.
I love that. That's beautiful. Jason, thank you so much. Where can our listeners learn more about you and everything that you do?
The happiest that you could make me is to go to Amazon and buy my book. It's called One Too Many. One to Many, it's my book on webinars, specifically step by step, all the framework broken down on how you could create a webinar.
Guys, I read it. It's incredible. I'm going to put it in the show notes so you guys have the link. Jason, thank you so much for all of your time.
Oh, you're most welcome. This is a great podcast.